Hi, my name is Courtney Bertsch, and I did Chapter 18, question number 3. So question number 3 reads, select a part of the hospitality and travel industry and examine public relation activities of 3 of its leading organizations. Do they have a public relations department? How are they organized to handle the public relations function? Are outside agencies or consultants used? What public relation techniques and media vehicles are used? Have any of the organizations had to handle negative publicity recently, and how have they had to do this? Do you see any similarities or of differences in their approaches? And which groups does the best job of public relations and why? So the key terms that I've pulled out is first, public relations. So public relations are all the activities that a hospitality and travel organization uses to maintain or improve its relationship with other organizations and individuals. The second term that I pulled out was publicity, just one of the public relation techniques which involves non-paid communication of information about an organization's services. The third term that I pulled out was publics. Publics is just a convenient name for all of those whom an organization interacts with. And then I also pulled out media vehicles, which are specific newspapers, magazines, journals, directors, websites, television, and radio stations where advertising can be played. To elaborate a little more on publics, there's 2 different kinds. First, there's in-house and then there's out-of-house. In-house will include your employees' families, the unions, the stockholders, and the owners, whereas out-of-house will be the customers, other travel organizations, competitors, industry community, local community, government, media, financial community, as well as travel schools. So there are 3 roles of a public relations person. First is to maintain a positive public presence. Second is handling negative publicity. And then third is enhancing the effectiveness of other promotional mix elements. So there are 9 steps in planning public relations. The first is to set the objectives. Second is to decide on if you want an in-house or an agency. Third is to decide a budget. Fourth is to decide if you want cooperative public relations. The 5th is to decide the techniques. The 6th is to select publicity media. The 7th is to do the timing. The 8th is prepare final public relations plan. And then the 9th is to measure and evaluate if it was a success or not. So just to kind of elaborate more and make it more clear on what the 9 steps. So the first one's really easy. It's just making the objectives. Second one's also very easy. It's deciding on the in-house or agency. Which one do you feel comfortable with? Which one do you have the budget for? The third one is making the budget for it. So depending on whether you do choose in-house or if you choose an agency, there's different things. In-house, you're pretty much just going to get the staff and what they need, whereas sometimes the agency will be a little bit more expensive. Then the 4th step, which is consider cooperative, that's just a lot of corporations kind of joining together to make one big press release instead of just each of you paying for in-house or each of you paying for agencies. You all do it really together and pay for it at once. So the 5th one kind of needed a little bit more elaboration. So to select public relations and public techniques, there are actually 3 techniques that you need to go about. First is continuous public relation activities, so like newsletters, media relations, government relations, customer relations, and advertising. Then the second one is pre-planned short-term activities, so new press release, features, stories, ceremonies, events, and then openings. And then third is unpredictable short-term activities, which is handling negative publicity and media interviews. So the 6th step is to select public relations and publicity media. This means selecting a type of media vehicle to communicate the information to the publics. So whether you want to do newspapers, televisions, radio, magazines, newsletters, any of these are a good option to keep relationships via media, but you just need to choose one to make sure that you're being public about what you're doing in the company. Then 7 is to decide on timing of the public relations. So for the unpredictable short-term activities, they must be handled promptly. So any bad news you really get, you're really going to have to fix that quickly. That way they know that you're attentive and care exactly what happens to the company. Then for the continuous and pre-planned activities, public relations must decide when to launch the new press releases or the monthly newsletter and things like that. Depending on how your year is going, you want to make sure that the press releases are put out in really good times to where people know about it. Then the 8th step is really simple. It's just preparing a final public relations plan and budget. And then 9 is measure and evaluate public relations success. So there are 6 ways you can really do this. First is evaluate by those who are responsible. Second one is visibility, so how much publicity was received for what you guys did, whether it was donating to the Make-A-Wish Foundation or whether it was negative. It's just how much did your company really receive for that. The third one is organization utility, so how available and how prepared was the staff. Then 4 is artistic standards. So did the staff follow the procedures and the practices as well as people needed them to be handled? Then number 5 is the change in opinion, attitude, images, and the issues. And then 6 is the evaluation of the objectives. So to get back to the question, first I chose the lodging industry. So the first big influence I chose was the Marriott. The Marriott has an in-house public relations department. It's divided up among the brands as well as the different sections in the company. So you have a section for diversity, performance, social responsibility, the environment, and different things like that. Media vehicles that they use are newspapers, newsletters, magazines, press releases. They definitely use the newspaper to communicate the stocks and how their business is doing for stockholders and the owners. Newsletters is more for employees in the company and employees' families know exactly what the company is doing to make things better. In magazines, you'll have the new openings, or if they're trying to do something new in the hotel, if they're trying to make a new brand, or if they're trying to improve a brand, things like that. That's what you're going to find in these media vehicles. The next organization I chose was Hilton. Hilton also has an in-house public relations department. It's organized by using a worldwide corporate communication center. And they use newspapers, newsletters, webcasts, magazines, and press releases. I did find a lot of webcasts on Hilton's compared to Marriott's. I watched a few of those. They were definitely about donating and helping out the community a lot. Then for the third one I did Choice Hotels. Choice Hotels also has an in-house public relations department. They organize by putting 2 head directors on top of the relations. And then the media vehicles that I got from them were a bunch of newsletters. They had a full list of newsletters after newsletters, about 3 per day, and then webcasts, magazines, and then press releases. So the similarities that I really found between all of them is the media vehicles they use. Most of them like to use newsletters a lot, like to use webcasts a lot. All of them use magazines, and then the newspaper. Definitely, if they're doing something for the community or if they're donating money, they always want to get that out into the media because they're doing something good. Or if they're going environmentally friendly, like using more recyclables, they're going green, using different products, things like that. They wanted to put that more in the newspaper. That way more people read it because newspaper is the top media vehicle. The other similarity that I found with all of these organizations were that their public relations department were in-house. The reason being, I feel, was that they wanted to have control more of what they put out in the media, whereas hiring an agency, they don't really get to the view and they're more expensive, whereas keeping it in-house, you kind of have more control over it. I do feel as though Marriott did a little bit better in how they do their public relations, just because they do divide it up among the brands. Different brands are doing different things in their hotel. Each of them are making new strides in the community and doing those things. So I feel as though Marriott did a really, really good job in their relations department of letting the people that were close to this situation kind of handle on what media they put out there and what they really wanted the people to know. I also liked how they did it with diversity, performance, social responsibility, and environment, because all of them are doing different things. So performance, people are like getting new bed sheets, getting new towels, doing new brand things, new brand standards they're setting, whereas maybe social responsibility, they're giving back to the community and they're giving like the sheets or the shampoos to like local homeless shelters and things like that. And whereas maybe like the social responsibility side, like they're giving the furniture to like Habitat Humanity because they're setting a new brand standard. They don't use the furniture anymore, so giving it away, they're doing that. They want people to know about it. So dividing it up into like the sections, I feel like was a really good idea because each section has something different going for it. I didn't really like how Hilton did it, just because they did do like a worldwide communication center. I know that normally when you go through Hilton, it's always automated and on the phone, and you get transferred to somewhere and then you get transferred to somewhere else, and then sometimes you can't understand the people. So I definitely think Hilton might want to work on that a little more. I know that Hilton is doing a bunch of new and different things. They're definitely becoming more greener in the hotels and everything. So all of them combined really didn't have a lot of negative publicity. I mean, there are the small things like bed bugs, people getting sick from like the food that they serve at the free dinner or like the continental breakfast, but none of them had really a lot of negative things recently. Most of them were all in the past. I know Choice Hotels had a few in the past, but those were like 2008. I definitely feel that the public relations department in all of these organizations though are doing a very good job about putting out what they're doing new and what they're doing for the community and everything like that. Choice Hotels was volunteering a lot and was giving a lot of money back to the community. They were also redoing a bunch of hotels that they had in. Marriott's definitely redoing a bunch of hotels as well. So all of these public relations departments are really working well together and for themselves and for the company and trying to get the best information about the company out there. That way they're looked at as a positive light into the community and through the consumer's eyes and everything like that. They're all following government regulations. They're all doing very successful in the economy. So there's a huge public relations effect to that and the light that it brings to their company. And when there ever was negative attention, they always answered it very promptly. They always fixed the situation by comping rooms, by giving away free stays, by giving away free vacations, all expenses paid to like Hawaii and things like that. They really did their best to one-up it, so that way they were still looked on as a good light. So these public relations in the lodging industry do a very, very good job in keeping the good light shed on their company. Well, thank you so much. That was Chapter 18, question number 3. Have a great night.